Hello and welcome to the Tech Capital World. I'm Bobby Davis, CEO and founder of Foundry. In here in Office B today, Kevin. How you doing?
Yeah, true. Let's call it Studio B. Today.
Studio B.
Broadcasting live from Studio B.
Yeah, so
I'm
like
still in Studio Home.
A little technical glitch in the studio, so we had to switch over. So like, it's all good.
It's all good. Doesn't really matter.
All right.
Doesn't matter. Do you have a good weekend?
Yeah, pretty good. Quick check. Are we live? Or am I just checking? I didn't see anything yet.
Yeah. We are.
Okay.
We are live.
Right.
I see us there. We should
All
be.
right.
If we're not, we've got a problem. I see it.
Oh, you see it? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I just checked. It says it's still waiting on me.
Oh. Weird. You know why? You got an Android. That's why.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so let's just keep on going. So we got some exciting stuff today, I think, Kevin. We got we're gonna talk about some coding projects.
Yeah, we've done some stuff on this before. We've made some individual videos, which we're going to reference back to, because we're going to talk about some stuff that we have talked about before, but we're going to give you some of the new stuff too. So a little mix of both.
In my personal world and sphere of influence and things that I get around, I'm starting to see a lot more movement in the job front, especially as we look at this in June 1st and 2021. I've seen a lot of people getting hired now that coming out of our boot camp. I'm looking for people. Everyone's looking. I've talked to several other guys, and they're all looking for people. I remember, for months. And so, if you can learn .NET, I think this is a great time to learn how to code. So we want to give out some coding projects that maybe could boost that portfolio a little bit, boost it up.
Yeah, that's that plan.
So I think one of the common mistakes I see a lot is people rely on their resume too much trying to break in versus their portfolio. And the portfolio needs to have stuff on it that proves that you can code. And if you can do that, then you can win. But if you're shipping out your portfolio with zero experience on it, I think that does you a disservice. Even if you went to a computer science major, a 4-year CS degree.
Because we know that doesn't prove that you can code. It doesn't prove that you can actually make something. It doesn't prove that you can ship something. It just proves that you've spent 4 years doing something.
Right.
Which has some value.
So all these projects that we're going to submit is going to be what we call in our world mini sites. These are mini sites or smaller scale projects, things that you should be able to do in a weekend, given that you already know how to code. If you don't know how to code, maybe it'll take you a little bit longer, but these aren't large scale projects. Typically, they don't have a database. They don't have authentication, security, those kind of things. So just typically front end type deals, but we can make front end a way cooler, Kevin. We absolutely can do it. So we're going to talk about how to take one of these simple things and make it way cooler.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
And here's the thing that I'm seeing. Oh, thanks.
It's Alantonio / Alantino.
Alantonio.
Oh, this is for the vets.
Yeah, that's awesome. On that leaderboard. Thanks, man.
Yes. If you're in the US, that's why we were out yesterday. It's a national holiday, Memorial Day. So that's why we weren't around yesterday. We weren't working out. I don't know. Were you around yesterday? I was driving back yesterday.
I was around yesterday. I did some stuff, had some people over.
Okay. Cool.
So ate some hot dogs.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, that's a typical when you have a holiday in the US, that's what happens. By the way, you have a cookout. That's what happens. You grill,
we had a little cookout.
That's what it is. Everybody grills. Yeah. It's the American way, no matter what the holiday is.
S'mores.
There you go. So thanks, Antino. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think one of the things that I see too is as I've getting resumes in for people for the job search I'm doing, I did get them in from a couple of bootcamp people, and one of them that I showed you last week, and I don't want to call the guy out but I just want to recommend that it's got to look good too. So all of these things that we want to show you is it's got to be more than just a console log application just in your GitHub. It's got to look functionally good for it to really give the impact that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the thing that
one thing stuck out to me on that one particular portfolio that we're talking about. Again, not to call the person out, but there was just some very, very simple things, just very simple layout things, just very simple things that could have been fixed with some really simple CSS stuff. or just use a template or Bootstrap. It would have been very, very easy to fix. My particular thing that really bugged me was like there was 4 links on a single line, and they just all ran together on a line. All left aligned, just like I'm like, oh man, it just makes that everything else you're gonna do from here on just like you have zero credibility because you can't fix that one tiny little thing.
Yeah.
It was just bad.
Another thing I'm seeing, there's a popular bootcamp out there, and I just want to caution you, if you'll know what this when I say this project, the bootcamp. And I don't want to call bootcamps out because I think most of them do the best you can do. But they have a particular project they use a lot, which is an API-based project. And say, hey, pick an API and just do that. And what you see over and over again is they all pick the Pokemon Pokédex, and it's like. Yeah. It's just not a good project, like for a business focusing project. It's cool. I mean, like everyone likes Pokemon, but I get that. But like at the same time, we tend to focus on things that better resonate with a hiring manager.
Yeah, there are some way more professional APIs you could use to show that you can pull an API.
Exactly. Right. And I would say, even if you want to stick in pop culture, I think movies plays better than Pokemon. Like, in other words, like everyone goes to the movies, and I think that has a better, it just does better, So like we do an API project in here, ours is based on the movie, and I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm just saying that plays better than Pokemon. I mean, it just does.
No, I agree. It's a wider audience for sure.
Yeah.
I do believe that's true.
And if you're doing something around like, hey, making it like Netflix, streaming services, that kind of stuff, you can build it out where it has a wow factor. Oh, that looks just like the Apple service, or that looks just like Netflix. That's kind of cool. Combine that with a good set of API data, and then add another feature to it, like crowdsourced reviews, I think is another thing that you can add to your movie site, Yep. So I think those we're going to show a couple today that we're going to say, hey, this is built off an API or one, and it's pretty good, but we're going to use it first. So what's our first app we can talk about?
Let's before we talk about the first app we're going to talk about, I think you've touched on the fact that these are more like you can kind of throw these together. If you know how to code already, you can throw these together in a couple of days. So what we're not talking about is something like the bug tracker, which you also need on your portfolio. We're not saying these are the projects that like, this is not the one project, right? These are additional projects to put on your portfolio. You still need something that's full stack. You still need something like the bug tracker. We're not saying that any of these apps on their own are going to be good enough to impress somebody and get you a job on their own.
Right. Exactly. And so like that business app needs to have a database, security, solve a business problem. And we think the bug tracker is the perfect project that fits all those bills. But you can find other things that you can do if you want to. And
so that's something that takes weeks and weeks and weeks to make, potentially months to make. These are things that you can do kind of, if you know how to do this already, kind of in a weekend. Couple of days.
Yeah. So like if you want to know, even in our boot camp, we spend 4 weeks out of the 12 on the bug tracker, and they're spending 40 to 50 hours per week to do it, just to tell you how much effort's involved in our bug tracker. So it's a lot.
It's a couple hundred hours.
I mean, it's big, and that's when people see it like, oh, that's a mid-level project. And we're like, yeah, kind of, but maybe not. I mean, not for us. It's one of the projects we do. But I think it's definitely worth your while investing that time, because you'll learn a lot when you're building stuff like that. So,
right. Okay, so let's talk about weather first. The API project. Let's talk about that one first.
So if you're going to pick an API project, we think weather's pretty good, even though it's very well used and very well worn. And so it's not our favorite, but it's not bad either. So like, it's not Pokemon, it's weather.
Right.
And so weather is going out. Now there's been some changes. If you go look at the video we pushed out, I don't know, it was probably a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, on the Dark Sky API.
A couple of years ago. Yeah, it is. Wow, it's been out that long. Okay.
Yeah. So the Dark Sky API, which is no longer free anymore because Apple purchased it, but there's some other weather APIs that you can use. Now, what we say in our weather reviews, we call it Weather Pro, is to make it look cool. Don't just go regular. Try to take it up a notch. And I think that's the best thing you can do. And definitely show things like 5-day forecast, the forecast stuff, just not current weather and time. Try to show other things that the weather API offers. Right. So we show 5-day forecast, that kind of stuff. And all of those are included. Yeah.
This is kind of what it looks like. It's just a screenshot from the video, but yeah.
Yeah. So weekly, hourly, precipitation, clouds, that kind of stuff. We did some custom work on the art side, our thing. But basically, if you look at it, we have a bootstrap grid with one row and column above it, and then 2 columns below it. They're translucent with colors. So little RBGA to make it orange, blue, and kind of gray. And then we just have a really cool background that we downloaded from a stock photo site.
We grabbed
that's about it.
From stock too, right? The weather images, as well.
And to be fair, we worked on ours a little bit. We changed them up, tried to find ones that we liked, and but we tried to make it customized as possible. So anyway, so that's weather. So what you could do weather. You could do movie here. Marvel
something with an
comics,
API, right?
We've done that, but I think that falls a little bit into Pokemon. But the thing about Marvel though is they're so popular now that can kind of play. But like, I would still say I would lean to movie and weather over even more, even though I've done thing on Marvel Comics API, and the Marvel Comics API is also problematic. So the data is not exactly clean, so that you run into problems with it.
Right.
So that's where I would lean to movie, weather API, something like that. And there's some other APIs out there. You can get stock API. So like you could build a stock
that's a good
app.
One.
Yeah. And so I think what you could do there on the stock API is pick a portfolio mix that you want, maybe 10 or 12 stocks, invest $1,000 in it, put a historical date, and then do kind of a paper trading type site, which would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Or just show how these stocks have performed over 5 years.
Yeah. You could even brand it if you pick, like, let's say you picked a niche, right? Maybe you made just a FANG one, or you made one that was in like semiconductors or something. You picked the top 5 semiconductor companies and then branded something around that and made your app that. Or, something that's like a sub niche within that too, so that it allows you to brand it as well and call it something like the tech stock ticker or something something interesting like that. Kind of cool.
And with the free ones, you're not going to get real time data. It's going to be 15-minute delay, so you can't trade on it, but you can show historicals, and you definitely can make something fairly, I think, kind of useful site for people to go look at. So instead of just showing the Dow ticker or something like that, you can show individual stocks. And, if you invested $1,000 today in the FANG stocks, 5 years ago, how much money would you have today? Things like that,
Yep. So the intent here is to use something with an API, because that's kind of an important skill to try and show somebody that you can do, and try and make it as interesting as possible using that API. Because the API in itself can be interesting, right? Because that's where you're getting data from. It means that you're not having to dummy up data. It's real data you're getting in for whatever it is. So,
and I'll make one little thing on weather. You could do mashups with weather. So one mashup I've wanted to do, I've talked about it for a while. I haven't really sat down to do it yet. I'll just give you my idea. But if I was doing weather today and I had to get a job, I would combine Spotify API with the weather API and play music based on the weather.
Yeah, so if it's a dreary day, you get purple minor music with or you get like sad music or whatever. I think that's cool. I think you could do that too. I think that's very interesting. I love that idea. Yeah, if you could mash up 2 kind of APIs, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you can mash up 2 APIs that make sense, that go well together, I think that's another thing that you can do with APIs that people you don't see that commonly. On it. And then I think if you made a Spotify weather app, I mean, you could get some play on that where people were like, wow, that's kind of cool. Purple Rain's playing and it's raining.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to look at it for sure.
Yeah.
And 17 Hero also says, and we've looked at this too, by the way.
Yeah.
Some good sports APIs. We thought about doing I thought about doing a football one, like a Premier League one, because the Premier League, there's a really good one for the Premier League stats. They give you like who scored and everything. Like, it's great. There's a lot of data, and it's crowdsourced API too. So I think they give you quite a good limit for on the free tier. It was kind of good, and at least enough to build an app on anyway. Not something you can probably build a business on, but enough you can build an app on.
For sports teams, it's kind of cool. So you could build that. In a former life, I actually built something on the NHL. We built something for NHL teams for a company in New York, and basically the project didn't get funded. We had to build our prototype. We got paid for our prototype, but it didn't get finished. But I can remember even then we were trying to get the actual data from the league, and it was all manual. Now you can just pull it from an API. You remember this was probably
out there,
98 or 99, something like that.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty interesting. But like I think those are kind of cool. And so what you can do with a sports API is, here's what I would do. I would do my little bit of research. And so like if I was interviewing North Carolina, I'd probably show Panthers, unless I went on Twitter and found them and found out that they're a Raiders fan. Then when I walked in there, it would show Raiders stats.
Exactly.
You know, so
chances
like
are, though,
switch the teams around.
Hot tip, you ever do an app in North Carolina, just make a college basketball app.
Yeah, exactly. You can find the data.
They're either going to be a Duke fan or they're going to be a North Carolina fan. Don't brand it one way, just brand it college sports, college basketball, you're good to go.
You're good to go.
But you're right, you could find out like what sport they like and make an app based on the sport they like, and even their favorite team. Like, or have an app that's so generic. Let's say that you made a Premier League app and you made it generic enough where you had some kind of page for each of the teams, and you just happen to know this guy's like a Liverpool fan, so you're just gonna pull up that page. Like when you get, it's like, what a coincidence. No, I didn't stalk your Instagram. Like, really, you did. Like,
I did. I actually did.
You know?
I talked to my recruiter. I got him to ask you some pre questions. So you know,
right.
But I think that's what you could do with API. So like build an API app. I think that's our tip number one. It can be weather, it can be music, it can be movies, but stay away from, I don't know. I think when I say Pokemon, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just stay away from it. I just think you should stay away from it.
Yep. So here you go. Dennis has another good example for this too. Like a farmer's almanac style thing is also interesting. Anything where anything where there's data that could be generally interesting that you can put something on top of and use in a certain way.
Yeah.
So yep.
I like it.
Very cool. Okay, next, let's talk about another one that we have previously talked about, and I have a demo of this one. Let's talk about Notary.
Cool. All right, Notary. We actually have a tutorial on our YouTube site about this. So we built this for a reason too. But yeah, let's demo that out real quick and show. Let me
put up the link first. Put up the link in chat. To the video, so you guys can go watch this afterwards. And if I could spell, I would have spelled that right, but I didn't. Let me pull up the app. I do have the app too. Here we go. So here's the app running.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So this is pretty simple. It's just it's an app that allows you to search through a text document, right? So in here we have, for example, Alice in Wonderland. And I pull up the book.
Right.
And here's the text of Alice in Wonderland. And you show a bunch of stats. Most used words. Yep. Surprise, surprise, Alice, number one.
Yep.
And then least used words, which in this example is just a bunch of words only get used once.
Yeah.
And then some document stats. And then a search function. So I can search for a particular word too, which is kind of cool.
Like,
so if I do
down, we'll look down.
Down.
There
you go. Down.
Yeah.
I do a search, and then there you go. So it highlights the down in there, and every instance of down it highlights in the text.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this one then? What's the kind of the
so the reason I wrote this was just like, how do you number one, there's a fetch in this. We're using the fetch API inside of JavaScript that's pulling things off a local source to the web server, which is kind of interesting. But in other words, how to use fetch to pull things in. And then we're also searching through arrays. So we load these books into arrays and display them. So there's that too.
That's how it does these counts, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're counting the words in there. There's also some, we're filtering this by noise words and spaces. And so there's a lot of things in there they're doing to make it more useful so that you don't have some weird results.
That's true, so because like here, the most used word isn't the or a, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it would be, right? I'm guessing it would be like, would it be a? Yeah. Is that the most common language?
Yeah, a or the, any kind of what we call noise words. So these are all, we filtered those out. So we're showing you how to filter arrays, how to search an array, and display it. And we're also formatting the text, and we're using Gutenberg Press to get some stuff that's out of that's in public domain. so that we can use that.
Yeah, so you can actually use it, right?
Yeah. So that's one right there. So you can go watch the tutorial and watch our video, and then check it out.
Yeah, the video is a total how to build it, so you can totally just use that to build it if you wanted to. I think that one's still entirely relevant and still exactly as it it works perfectly.
But if you put that, you don't see this one at all. So like, it's a pretty unique project. What I would advise is, if you built it out based on our video, is change the color, at least the background color maybe, and maybe change the title from Notary to readit.com or something like that. Change it up a little bit, and then build it out.
Also, I think just think of other ways to extend it as well. Think about other things that you find interesting in here. Like maybe you do something else with the word count. Maybe there's something interesting around that. Maybe I don't know, just other ways that you can think that could be interesting. Maybe there's
nothing you could do
a chart or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could chart them. You also could break up the UI, maybe page it, something like that, if you wanted to figure out how to page it, each individual page. And so there'd be a lot of things you could do with Notary to make it a little bit different than what we did.
Yep.
So
more of a starting point. You to come up with your own ideas too. Okay. Next one. Let's talk about mortgage calc.
Yeah, so mortgage calc is one that we started doing because we started seeing this as an actual interview question. So like, people were asking this, and they built it out overnight. And so we liked it so much that we put our own spin on it and brought in our own our project. And every Code of Foundry student currently right now is building a mortgage app. And they build it two ways, one in JavaScript, one in C#. So let me show you kind of what we're talking about there. And then Kevin's actually going to have a specification from our school that you can get and show you how to build it. And if you go to learn.coderfoundry, we'll build this in our school as well. So
I've actually already posted the specification on Discord. So if you're not on Discord, you can go join there. The link is down below. It is in the general channel on Discord. It's marked as a spoiler called Challenge Template.
Yeah.
So it's there.
So I can change my loan amount here, and it's going to calculate my monthly payment on a simple interest loan. There's some math here that you got to do, but it basically creates an amortization chart. And you can see here, I've got my 60 payments running down.
Some of you guys have probably already done this too, because we did have this as a challenge as well. So.
Yeah. So I can change, obviously, the interest rate. And this looks simple until you start doing it. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. There's some math. We give you the math equations to be able to do this. You can obviously spice this up. You can bring in different products, make a product site, and then create loans off that. We saw some people make some stuff around Star Wars, and they mashed up the Star Wars API and then calculated fictional price and did that. That's kind of interesting. I would use cars versus Star Wars for my portfolio, but like either way, you're just building out loan payments. So you can mash up an API with this and make it better than just this, or you can just show loans. I mean, it's this is very relevant. So someone could come in and say, okay, let me calculate, my house payment here, something like that, and then I can have what's 30-year loan. It's 360, like that, and say doing that, and then I could calculate my house payment or something like that. So I think that's interesting in itself, and I think it's also useful, and it also resonates with the employer, and like, oh, okay, that's cool, and they can go check it and say, okay, that's interesting. That actually does work, and so when stuff works and it's well laid out, I mean, I think that it puts you in a better light as a developer. So I don't know. I like the mortgage calc app still. And there's things you can do with it that makes it cool.
Yeah, again, you could use charts and things. People have done that with some of the demo ones that you guys have built before, showing a chart when you reach the point where you're paying more principal than interest, which is interesting on a mortgage. Think about things that people would use, and go look at some examples too. Look at some other ones. You can go to a bank's mortgage calculator and see what they do, and kind of just make your own version of that.
Yeah, I think bankrate.com has some good calculators on there, and you can see kind of what they're doing, how they laid it out. You can add in things like insurance and all that stuff if you just do like housing mortgages.
Yep.
So that does impact the just the plain payment. So there's a lot of things you can do to make it kind of that much better.
But it's more about the math can become more complex than the actual problem itself in a lot of those things.
Yeah.
But if you figure out the math part of it, the coding part of it isn't super difficult.
Right.
It's more
so in our specification, Kevin's going to give you in our Discord channel, you'll be able to get the spec from us, and it's got the math in it laid out for you.
Yep, the math is at the bottom of the page in there. It's the same thing we used for the coding challenge when we did it before. So if you guys that have seen that before, you've seen that. But if you haven't, it's in there. It's in the Discord channel. You can go grab it again. It's in the general channel. I posted it right before we came on here. Okay, so
that's kind of cool.
We were thinking about, so this morning we're like, hey, let's do a video today on projects. We haven't done one of those in a while. We haven't done one live, I don't think, in a long time for putting them all together. And then we're like, well, we got 3. Let's come up with a fourth. So this morning we sat down for 15 minutes and we came up with a 4th one.
Yeah, and this is brand new. I just thought of this morning, me and you, and so the genesis of this comes from a site called dailycodingproblem.com. So you go to Daily Coding Problem, enter your email, and they're going to send you a daily coding problem every day. Your challenge is yes, you can solve them all. You can run them out to console apps. But the challenge is, how do I take this problem and make it real world instead of it just being like this computational type problem? Now, solving them on your own is kind of cool. You'll see similar problems when you go to interview and things like that. So there's some usefulness in just solving them as they sit. But if you want to put something on your portfolio, I think that
take it up a
you
notch.
Can use these as the genesis for like, okay, what's the problem? And then think about, how would this problem be used in the real world? Why are they asking this problem? Like, in other words, like, why is this important?
Yep.
And we found one.
We saw one from just a couple of days ago, right?
Just a couple of days ago.
So here you go.
Apparently this was asked at Microsoft. So let's show it out.
So this is the very, very simple problem. This doesn't have the example on it, but this is just the problem itself. So it's compute the running median of a sequence of numbers. That is, given a stream of numbers, print out the median of the list so far on each new element. So recalling that the median is different than the mean, it is the even numbered list is the average of the 2 middle numbers. So like, okay, wow, you can't get much more of a simplistic sort of problem on its face than that.
Right. So here's what I thought of. So like what you could do for this problem is you could take this problem and then you apply it to a real world situation. And so one of the real world situations that I thought of right away when I read this, because instantly when I said, ooh, I've got this one, it just popped in my head. So like you could take that and replace those numbers with sales data. And so like, let's get the average of daily sales. Okay. So like, let's say that we're running a cash register at a Arby's or a Dairy Queen or, Hardee's or Subway, which I've actually done. Like I've actually pulled registers and pulled back the daily receipts and then calculate a lot of statistics on those receipts.
Right.
And these people would use that data to figure out how many employees they need in the store, given the historical sales data. So last month on Monday, we had, 10,000 in sales. So we need, for every 1,000 in sales, we need a new employee or something like that.
Right.
And so they would apply that average to it, and that would allow them to build scheduling. So like what I think the challenge here is to mock up some sales data, come up with a metric of every so many, that's how many employees, and then show how many employees they need for the given day.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think just straight out of the gate, just even more simpler than that is just use sales data to figure out
instead of just numbers.
Instead of just exactly. Use sales data period just to put some kind of sort of, pardon the pun, frosting around it. Some sort of like something around it that brings it into the real world. So you take this list of sales numbers, you figure out both maybe the median and the mean. So you figure out both, right? You figure out where it is sent, and we'll talk about that in a second, why you might want to do that. And then Yeah, and then think about, okay, so what would I do with those figures? And then, like you said, extend it out. So you'd be like, okay, so those figures, what do they actually mean? They show like how many staff I need to have because I've sold 10,000 sandwiches in that day at this amount of money, and I know that for every 1,000 sandwiches I need a staff member, and I know that this time last year maybe July 4th came around and man, I didn't have enough staff because I didn't do this stat, and I need to ramp it up. I need 3 more people that day, and this is going to tell you that. Historically, maybe you can do a comparison, which is kind of cool.
Right. And the other thing it can be used to, which takes it even further, the restaurants that we did, they would use this for stock reordering. They would use it for how much stuff they need in the store. They would use it for scheduling. They used it for a lot of things. By just polling the daily receipts, calculating statistics on those receipts, and then storing them so that historically they could look back a year-to-date sales, and then last month sales.
Yep.
And they'd also look at like biweekly, monthly, and year-to-date so that they could see if there's any seasonality trend, like you said, a holiday, Christmas, whatever, or maybe there's a trend that maybe we got popular. Maybe we ran an ad. Maybe we did some other stuff. We had something on sale. And then so like, our sales increased. And
there's
so
a bunch of different ways you could like tangent this thing off too. One of the other things we talked about when we talked about this morning, which we talked about for literally 15 minutes this morning. One of the things we're talking about is you could also pull in like a list of employees, and then you can like schedule them. So you have this thing down now, and now you're like, okay, I know I need 4 employees, so which 4 am I going to schedule? Like, oh, okay, like, these 4 are available on the Monday. I'll pull those 4 in.
Right.
So you can build an actual scheduling app, which is interesting too.
Right. Exactly. And so I think that's what we actually did. We built scheduling apps for these convenience stores. They were convenience stores, and restaurants were hooked to the convenience store. So if you went to a gas station, it was a large Southeastern convenience store operator. And then they would have restaurants attached to them. There'd be Subways, Wendy's, Dairy Queen, Arby's, and Hardee's. And then we built scheduling software based on the receipts so they can know how many people that needed to be there.
There you go.
So
and the genesis for that, again, is just this idea, right? Just this kind of simplistic thing. And you can look through a bunch of these and be like, when sort of one comes to mind, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I see that problem sort of mirrored in the real world in this particular place. I could build an app based on that.
Right.
And that's generally the idea here, is try and find one of these sort of simpler coding project, or not even coding project, coding challenges, right? It's more about, the challenge is more about solving the math part of it, right? Figuring that part out.
Yeah.
But then throwing a real world model over that and making it a project.
Right. And I think that's our best advice. In fact, you may see employees schedule pop up at Coder Foundry here in the next, cohort coming soon, because I really like this project. I think it's cool.
Yeah. We'll make it a challenge too. Maybe we'll have you guys.
Yeah, we may make it a coding
that'll be our
contest.
next coding challenge. Maybe that'll be something interesting.
That would be something.
Yeah. Here you go. N17 Hero says I did this exact idea for a demo project. I put together learning Angular for a fake coffee shop. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, because it could be on, not just on the staffing side, like you said, it could be on the ordering side too. You could be like, oh man, we made 2,500 coffees, and we know we have enough supplies for that. So now I need to know when I need to reorder. You could think about it that way too. It's the same kind of thing. You need the same kind of math, really.
Right. And then we talked about median, because you schooled me on median this morning, because I was like,
oh yeah, because we're talking about, because we thought when we first read the problem, we were like, oh no, you just find the median. It's like, no, hold on, median's not that, is it?
Yeah,
median's slightly different.
I had to go look it up. So
yeah.
And then we tried to figure out, why would you ever use median? Won't you just use mean? And so like so you gave me a great example of that. If Bill Gates walked into my store,
and bought one of everything, he's going to throw your stats way off.
Right. Yeah.
In your coffee shop app, if you're figuring out the things and and you were using the median version, it basically gets rid of outliers. So it gets rid of like when Bill Gates walks in and buys one of everything, he doesn't throw off your average for the month per customer. Because if you just look back and you're like, man, my average customer in June, just so happens the same month that Bill Gates walked into my store, my average sale was like $85. But that's just not true. He spent 10 grand, right? Your average sale is like $3.
Exactly.
So there may be scenarios where you need to look at both of those kind of mathematical ways of figuring out averages.
Right. Yeah. So I think that works. So mean and median works. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, just depends on, you got to try and fit the right one for your scenario and figure out which one kind of works best for your scenario. And as long as you can justify it too, that's the other thing too. Like if you can explain why you chose one sort of way of calculating something over another, that's kind of interesting too.
Right. All right, let's go to some comments. Anybody got any questions? And we'll answer them. Super chat us if you want to do that, and we'll answer some questions here. I hope those projects help you improve that portfolio. That's what we're looking for, so you can get a job this summer.
That's it. Definitely. Yep. Build those. If you do build them too, throw them in Discord. There's a channel in Discord called Show Off. Throw your stuff in there. I'd like to see what your apps look like. It's always interesting to see. Let's go throw them up in there, and we'll let you know how cool they are. Okay, let's do some questions here then. And I've queued a bunch up here. So if you do have questions, throw them in chat. Same rules apply as normal. I'll go through as many as I can and get in as many as I can. If you super chat them, they'll jump to the top, and I will do those as they come in. So Walker says, is rebuilding a project in .NET seen as lazy or cutting corners? I have a project in Express that's done, but would like to have it as .NET in my portfolio.
Heck no, that's not lazy, dude. Like, no, I think we'll probably build the bug tracker in the learn.coding Foundry 4 different ways. So, like, I don't think it's lazy at all. You can say, hey, I built a bug tracker in Express, I built one in .NET, and I built one in something else, whatever. And I think that shows that you can build it in each of the languages. There's no reason to have a brand new project necessarily. So it's not cutting corners. You still got to build it in the language. I think that's cool.
Exactly. It's not just like you're cutting it and replacing a word. Like there's actual work involved. And I think anybody who knows what they're looking at will appreciate the fact that you've put work in and know that it's two very different things. It's not just because the idea is the same doesn't mean the execution is the same. Okay.
Hope that helps, Walker. Build it in .NET.
Okay, so Tim says, we touched on this just a little bit earlier. How long does one have to stay at, no, we didn't, something else. Stay at the first job if it is unpleasant. 6 months or a year is better. Will it look bad on a resume?
So for coders, typically no. I would say 6 months minimum. 1 year if you can do it. I mean, like unpleasant. I mean, a lot of times unpleasant really isn't that bad. I mean, like we just kind of get
right,
and sometimes it is truly unpleasant, But like, just try to put things in perspective. They're paying me, and I'm getting paid to do a thing. Unless they're just hitting you with sticks or yelling at you or like. But like, if they're asking you to work 40 hours a week and you don't want to work 40, you don't want to work that 4-day work week or you can't work from home. The 1 year experience is where you're trying to get to. And it's easy to get the 1 year when you have a job already. So like, I would say 6 months to 1 year. 1 year is probably better. But if you leave after 6 months, it's not going to look bad on your resume necessarily.
No, it's one of those, it's like coding is one of those careers where it doesn't look bad. It's okay to jump around a lot. That's not a problem at all. It's just because it's actually kind of typical. Especially when you're starting out, we actually encourage people to jump around a bit because that's where you'll get your biggest increases in pay. During those first few years is if you jump around a lot. If you stay at somewhere for 3 years, you're likely to become kind of stagnant. You're not as likely to jump up as much as somebody who moves around.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not bad, Tim.
Okay. Dennis says, I've been learning JavaScript for a while. When would you say is a good time to start React?
Today. I would start learning it right now. If you've been learning JavaScript for a while, try to. So the thing React's going to get you to do is build an application. So now you need to start into that realm of building apps. And the moment you get into apps, you need some kind of templating engine on the front end typically. And React's a great one to pick. So it helps you get your layouts correct, get everything looking great. It gives you some structure around how do you communicate with the server side. That's going to be Node.js more than likely with React. So I think today's a good time to start. See if you can build a small app, like maybe take that mortgage calc app and build it in React. I think that's kind of cool. The one that you would have a specification for. So try that.
Okay. Another question. What is the best .NET project for beginners to focus on? MVC or Web API and React on the front end?
I think it's going to be both, but we pick MVC right now. That's currently what we're doing. So that, but if you want to learn Web API, that's definitely an approach. I think either or will be fine.
So neither of them are wrong at this point.
No, I don't think so. I think MVC may be in more use currently, but Web API and React is a powerful tool. And we're going to push that into Learn.Coder as well eventually, where we have both of them in there. But I do think that you're going to learn MVC and Web API in your career. So I think those are both valid.
Okay. It's more of a course question, but this is, do many of your students get hired?
So many do. Here's what we tell every student coming in. We can't force someone to hire anyone. So and we're very transparent on how this works. So for you to get the most bang out of your buck out of Coder Foundry is you need to build all the projects that we get you to do. So if you can build all the projects that we do, and then you can verbalize that or talk about your code in an interview setting, you'll get hired. If you don't build all the projects and you don't learn or really invest the time into learning how to talk about your code, then it's going to take longer. But I saw 2 students last week get jobs. One student today announced that he got a job. So it's happening. I will say this, last year was really difficult because of COVID. It was hard, but I have seen significant changes in the marketplace in the last, say, 60 days as of June 1st, 2021. So, think about it, Esther. If you're building the projects and you can talk about them and you get an interview, you're going to get hired, you just are. Now, will you have to interview a lot? Probably. You'll have to practice. We do some mock interviews, but nothing's like the real thing. Will you have to apply to a lot? Yes, you've got to actually apply to roles to get hired. I mean, you do. I mean, so no one's going to call you. And so we do have some students that they're not really proactive in their job search. So you do have to work at looking for a job. So there's part of that too. So if you wait for someone just to call you, then it's probably not going to work out. If you blindly just send a bunch of apps off, it's going to take you longer to find a role, depending on your background on that resume. So you need to be proactive by finding a recruiter, finding someone that can shop your portfolio around. And once you start shopping that portfolio in and outside the interview, you improve your chances dramatically in getting hired. So
I think it's kind of weird too, because there's one of those things where it's we almost need to put a results aren't typical on everything. Just it's because it's kind of funny because somebody will ask they want to know what's the best case. We're well, somebody was here for 4 weeks and they got a job. But then we're going to be results are definitely not typical. But it's happened. Not. So it's somebody asked me was what's the typical time for somebody to get in? We're there is no typical time. It could be before you graduated. It could be never. Because it's all on, we can only tell you what we can do for you. We can't tell you what you're going to do for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
It's just,
and so here's what I would say. Here's what improves your chances. Number one, your portfolio is great. It's fantastic. It looks great and it functions great. All right. That's step one. Number two, your LinkedIn is on point, and your blog that we get you to build, you actually have relevant articles in that blog that you can push out to DevTO, LinkedIn. And so Coder Foundry is different than every other bootcamp. We're not promising you 5 magic beans. We are promising you, we're going to give you everything you need to get a job. The question is, will you do all those things? And we can't make you do that, but we can encourage you to do that. We can give you the moral support to say, get after it. We give you class time to make sure that you do those things. And then we work real hard on the student interview prep part of it. And then it's up to you to find the recruiters, which they're all over the place, and then apply and follow up with every employer that you get, trying to get a yes or no out of them. And I think if you do those things, you will have success. I've never seen a competent CF student not get hired unless they just didn't want a job, which some people don't.
Right. Some people genuinely don't, and that's okay. too, though. I mean,
that's okay. That's fine, but they don't want one. So like, and people say, sure, I do. Well, you don't want a full-time job. You don't want a 40-hour week job, or
right.
You won't do anything. The other thing too is that you can think about getting hired too is increase your search area. So if you're living in a smaller town, yes, there's software developers in every town, but if you want to increase your chances, then maybe you'll consider a move or a long commute. So that's the other thing that you can do.
A commute. I mean, we're talking about, I would say, an hour. We've talked about this a lot on here. We've talked this a bunch of times, but you have to be willing to commute an hour. An hour is nothing. I mean, where we are, people think like an hour is like the end of the world. You're in a city, an hour is like, just an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Even on the subway, it may be an hour subway train ride in New York.
Exactly.
So like, that's just kind of the way it is. But here in the Southeast and in North Carolina, we'll tell people, can you drive 50 minutes? And they think that we're asking them, to kill baby whales or something.
Yeah. If you know anything about the triad here, we're the triad because it's basically 3 cities, right? We are Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point. And so we're like, I live in High Point. Like, Winston? Like, it's like 20 minutes
30
away.
Minutes, man.
Like, come on. Like, it's really not that far. Like, but it's got to be in High Point. No.
So I think those are the things that you can do to improve your chances. And then the thing where I will say this, I say this a lot, your first job is not your last job. So the first job is may not be the best situation. You're like, man, I had to drive 50 minutes to that place, and they won't let you work from home. And it just feels like the drudgery. But after 1 year, then you can like re-energize your search. Now you have a year on your resume and a whole lot easier, and you can cut that search down. Or you can move. People move too. I mean, it's possible to move 20 minutes east or west,
right?
Maybe not all the way into Charlotte or all the way into Raleigh, but you could split the difference. Maybe if you had friends or family and you wanted to just stay in the tech capital world of Kernersville, I get that, so.
Well, just move states. That's okay too. Like,
you can move.
I moved halfway around the world and I've moved states plenty of times. Like, it's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's it.
All
right, I hope that helps, Esther.
So I want to know, how about inventory for e-commerce? I guess we're talking about
I like inventory. I like inventory as a project for sure, Troy. I mean, I do, and I like e-commerce. It's just, I think inventory is more interesting to me than e-commerce because that is a very common thing. Believe it or not, if you look around in companies, it's not a well-solved problem.
Yeah, there's not an off-the-shelf solution for everybody, is there? There's no one company they go to that's like, I need that. Like, I go to this company. No. It's a lot of bespoke work, isn't it? It's a lot of, which is great for developers because that means that gives you something to do.
Yeah. And so inventory typically throws into a thing called job costing, Troy. So like job costing is, I've got things on hand and I use those things on hand to construct a part or do a job or a project or whatever. And so that's the other part of inventory. So where you have receiving and then applying it to a job, and then that job gets completed and it decrements it out of inventory. So like there's a lot of things around inventory that is pull those out. You apply that cost to the job itself, and that could be a retail markup, and you could do things like that. So then you could calculate what did it cost to do it, what did I charge for it, and then what's my profit margin. So those kind of things. And it gets complicated because obviously things like lumber, as you can imagine, Troy, the price changes over time.
Right.
So that's where medium and mean come in. So like, like what's my average cost on this lumber? And then I'm going to have a markup on top of that. So like, you may not be able to get to a direct cost because you don't want to track every single 2x4, but you could. Some companies do it that way.
Could you imagine though, if it is like a wood and you're tracking every single 2x4, you're like, you can't use that 2x4 on that job because we're only charging that guy that amount, and that 2x4 costs way too much because we had to buy it when it was on peak. Like that would just be
exactly.
Easy.
Yeah.
You have to think about practicality with this stuff. Okay. Larry has a question about the course. When does the discount for the online course end?
As soon as it launches. Yeah.
Ends whenever we say it does.
Yeah, we're gonna as soon as we launch it, Larry, it'll go to $99 a month. And if you know anything about us, we try to be upfront when we tell people it's going to change, and then we're going to stick with that change.
Yeah.
We're going to stick with it. It's going to be $99 a month. We feel like our content is going to be, even at $9 a month, is way valuable. There's way more content going to be in this than people are thinking about. It's not just a singular course. Like, this is more of a learning platform. And so there's a lot to it. It's just that it's very specialized and walks you through the path of getting a job. So there's a lot more to it than just taking a random .NET course out on Udemy, which you could get for, $15, and that's fine if you want to go that route. Ours is teaching you everything you needed to be a full stack web developer using .NET.
Yep.
So
the $229 price
now is a bargain, dude. Like, it's going to be a bargain.
It is. The $229 price will run at least until we launch. We may run it just past launch before we push it to the $99, maybe the day or the first few days or something. We're not quite sure yet. We haven't quite.
We'll give you plenty heads up, Larry, so that if you're waiting for it to make the purchase as close to launch as you can, we'll definitely give everyone a heads up saying, hey, this is going to go live 14 days from now or something like that. And then you'll have time to still get it on the discount. So we don't want to, we're not just going to flip the switch and go, you missed out. Sorry. We're gonna
The other thing is too, obviously it's going to be don't worry about buying it early either. We're going to obviously your 1 year subscription is going to come from the day that we push it out live, not from the day that you actually purchase it. So I'm working on a way to extend those all out so everybody gets the same amount of time. So it's 1 year from go live until, so I'm working on that part too. So Okay, Troy has another question too. You guys cover unit testing?
Currently, right now, it's not something we're going to do like in the first year for sure. I mean, like, I think it's important, but there's a lot of other things that I want to do. So the things that we're going to cover will be .NET MVC in the first release, and then after that, it's going to be Blazor, and then we'll cover React and Web API. So those are the three big things that I want to cover, and then right after that's done, we have to implement .NET 6. So then .NET 6 will come out. And then from there, we'll implement whatever Xamarin is going to be when the new stuff comes out. And we'll cover cross-platform development with .NET in the early of the year. So, and then maybe after that, we get all those kind of base level things that we think is the base level of learning the code. We'll add in unit testing. But right now, it's not on the roadmap right now because we just feel like there's some other way more important things because not everyone does unit testing. I mean, it's like they should, but they don't. So like, I think that's, but it's a good topic.
Right.
We're just not going to cover it right away.
Speaking of .NET 6 coming out, by the way, somebody on the One Coding Project video left a comment and it said, and I just go find this real quick. Somebody left a comment says, isn't .NET an old technology? Is using React a better choice?
I don't think .NET's old at all.
I had to answer back. I was like, whoa, have you seen what's going on? Like, look at the progress even over the last couple of years. Like, .NET 6 is coming out. I think we've tried to dispel this myth a lot. Just because something's been around for a minute doesn't make it old. It's not, I should say, it doesn't make it outdated. I guess that's it's older but not outdated. I guess that's the thing. No. It's not,
technically React or JavaScript's been around for a minute too. I mean, like, it's not old either.
Right. It just seems like people equate with, it's been there for a minute, therefore it must be old and outdated.
Right.
That was crazy.
Brand new means untested and not used much. I mean, so like, that's the other thing with brand new. So like, but I would say that .NET, especially Microsoft, what they're doing is they are pushing the envelope of releasing annual releases to this platform, which you think is ambitious. I mean, like, it is ambitious. Yeah. But if any company's going to do it, they have the time, the money, and the resources to do it. And I think that's what's making it so exciting. So it's time to jump on that .NET train, I think.
There you go. Taki says, hello, I'm still a student, and I'm looking for a back-end internship. However, most companies do not trust interns with their back-end or database. What can I do?
I think you're going to have to interview well and make sure you have some projects that you can show that you know how to do it. I think that's the thing. It goes regularly back to that portfolio, which we always say. So,
and I think any decent company is going to have protections in place to stop an intern from, let's say, deleting the database, right?
I hope so.
Things.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that happens, then it happens, and you might not be there very long. I mean, don't make those mistakes, I guess, is the thing, right? Don't delete those SQL tables.
Use that work clause.
That's good. I don't know what this actually is. I don't know if this makes any sense to you. What are your opinions on app closers like Netflix or Amazon? What that means?
I don't know what he means.
I don't either. I don't.
Maybe I should.
I don't know. Mia says, is Foundry... okay. I guess, is a CS degree required to get into Fang?
I don't think so anymore. I mean, so let's say that Microsoft's not in Fang. It should be. But like, I know for a fact Microsoft has their own bootcamp. Google has released their own bootcamp. And so you can break into Google and Microsoft definitely coming in through their bootcamp program. So we've had people leaving here go on to the Microsoft bootcamp called Leap, and then Google has implemented the exact same thing. And so it's not required anymore. But doesn't mean if you're 3 years into your CS degree, you should quit. No, I always tell everyone if they're coming to the bootcamp and you're like in your last semester of the CS degree, you should delay coming to us and finish that up. So like, but if you're just starting out and you can't get a 4-year CS degree either because of time, money, location, or whatever, then there are definitely in Google and Microsoft ways to get in to that company. It's not required.
Yep, I think a lot of companies, in particular, they've historically said that's a thing. But I think they realize they just need people who can do the work, and they've noticed the best people often don't have that CS degree. They probably looked at their best employees and like, hold on a minute, this guy doesn't. Like, what?
Right? Yeah.
He's trained on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Self-taught coder.
Exactly. Robert McCabe says, recent bootcamp grad, ready to start my first full-blown project on my own. It's a healthcare app that has email functions. Do I need to worry about HIPAA laws with this?
I don't think so. Data, I mean, right? unless you're selling it. I mean, like if you're selling it, yeah, you do. But if it's just something you want to demo, Plus, and you're just doing it on your own,
the data wouldn't be real, right? You can't. And there's no.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't think you have to worry about it. Your data's fictitious, I'm guessing, in your app. You're not going to pull real data from somewhere.
Right.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Now, if you're working for a company on your first blown project, or you're trying to build something that you want to sell, I mean, and then you want to do that, then yeah, you need to worry about HIPAA. So.
That's interesting. You ever done a medical project or anything that required some sort of like legal things?
One of the largest PPOs in the Southeast, and built their whole claims processing system.
Something you had to take into account then, these kind of special rules, and actually in banking too, right?
So basically, HIPAA surrenders a lot around data security backups. Just like if you're getting something certified for HIPAA, it's about backups, not leaking data out, securing your endpoints, those kind of things. But when we're writing the app down on the back end of it, the company told us what the HIPAA requirements were. They knew more about that than we did.
So it's more about the business logic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose
but a lot of it has to do with, just a lot of these certifications look the same. Do you have your penetration test done for your app? Yes or no? Did you do it? Did you follow those kind of rules and those kind of guidelines? Are you routinely tested against those kind of problems that you could run into by being hacked and things like that? Do you encrypt your data at rest? Do you have off-site backups? What's your disaster recovery plan? Those kind of things. When you're worried about HIPAA or banking or anything like that, they're all kind of very similar.
There you go. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Patricio, thanks for the question. Says, I want to get better at communication. So I want to start writing to help me with that. Any tips for getting better at technical writing?
I think you just got to write some stuff, man.
Yeah, so, I think it's the old practice thing, isn't it?
practice. So, and I'm not. We make people write articles for their blog site. So, and we're trying to get them better at doing it. But like, You can also read technical articles and then start digesting or like dissecting like what they do. Like, how does this writer doing it? What is he doing? What's the length? How's he breaking it down? What's his, does he have screenshots? Those kind of things. So look at a well-formed article is what I typically do when I'm writing something like, oh, I like the way he laid that out. So
exactly. You look at like what you found appealing about it and why you found this, like find things that you liked, be like, why did I like this? Oh, I see. Like you chunked that up. It wasn't just a massive paragraph of text with nothing else around it. There's a lot of,
so part of it is formatting, Kevin. I mean, like, part of
definitely
it
is.
Yeah. And then you make sure your grammar's correct and, spelling and all that kind of stuff. You've got to be on point with that. So, but you can use things like Grammarly to help you with that, especially if you're writing in English and English isn't your first language, which we have students coming through that's not. They can use something like Grammarly to help them out. And then spell check, obviously, things like that.
Yep. Grammarly is interesting because yes, it takes into account grammar, not just spelling, which I like too. It'll give you it'll tell you in like passive sentences or things that like you wouldn't normally look out for.
Right.
A spell checker would never find.
You're changing it from sentence to sentence where you were first person, now you're third person.
Right. Right. A spell checker would never find that, but something like Grammarly will. It's cool. I have that installed. I use it. It catches my little errors all the time, and I make plenty of it.
So I hope that helps.
Okay, Shishu has one more question, and we'll actually wrap up with this one. Wants to know how to build a network of recruiters.
Oh, I think that's fairly easy. There's a lot of national ones out there, Tech Systems being a national one if you're in the U.S. And then go to LinkedIn and type in recruiter, limit the search to your area, and then you'll find them.
I think if you go to search, and put in like the if you find whatever brand, whatever company you want, and then put in the word recruiter and search, they'll come up. Let me see if I can do it on here real quick. Pull this up on the screen. Here we go. So just as an example, this was here we go, Tech Systems recruiter, and you'll find it's pulled up for mine. So here's one, Mark in my area, looking Greensboro. I would connect with Mark. I think you showed this on another stream too, but connect with Mark and just explain or ask a question or something, I loved your example that you used where it was asking like, hey, what's the market like for .NET developers now?
Yeah,
it sparks a conversation and it's on topic around what you want to do. And it and he's like, oh well, it'll answer back with, oh, it's great at the moment, or like it's terrible, learn Java, whatever it is.
Yeah, and not all recruiters are the same. They're all humans. So like some are good, some are not so good. And so like you need to reach out to a bunch until you can figure out some trusted partners in that. So maybe you start with 50 that you've kind of reached out to, and then eventually you can get it down to like 2 or 3 that you really work with.
And that's the great thing. There are a lot too. Just looking through, just looked up. I didn't even search for, this is just the people section. You can search for people too. Obviously you can narrow it down. But there are a lot, and they're they're fairly easy to find, like just through.
Yeah, and you can hit LinkedIn the locations tab there, Kevin, and just do triad. If you have locations there, just type in Greensboro in there in the location to get our area. Oh, there you go. Hit save. So there you go.
And there you go. And I have just a regular old account too. I don't have like a fancy paid up account or anything crazy like that. Mine's just a free account, so I can at least find some here. If you have an upgrade account, doesn't it give you more results and stuff? I think you have extra.
Yeah, so like I have a pro account that gets you more third level results.
But even that gave me 115 results, just for Tech Systems Recruiter locally. So,
And so the magic to LinkedIn is you got to build a network. So you want to connect with these people too, and then their connections become your second level after that. So if you can connect to a lot of people that have bigger networks than you, then your searches become more powerful. So it's cool. I think it helps.
There you go. Definitely.
All right.
Okay.
Is it time?
It's time. We're a little bit over, so let's wrap up. We'll be back on.
All right. Well, Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday. And all right. Good luck, guys. Keep coding. I hope you like those projects. Start building one, and maybe we'll show that if you build a mortgage calc or an employee schedule, we'll show it on the channel if you want to build it.
Yeah, go throw it in. If you do build one, go throw it in Discord.
we'll show it off.
If somebody builds one before Thursday, I will guarantee we'll put it on. If you throw it in the Discord channel, we'll show it on Thursday. I'll make that promise.
And we'll do it. All right. Good luck, guys. Keep coding. We'll see you Thursday.
We'll see you guys there.